Carlos Rodriguez had let exactly 3 things walk away from him in his entire life, and he'd killed 2 of them for it. When Rebecca Chandler grabbed her daughter and vanished into the night with a federal agent's business card in her pocket, he made a choice that would either save her life or end his empire. But what she didn't know was that the Volkovs had already found her new location, and Carlos had less than 6 hours to decide. Let her go and live with the guilt, or burn down every safe house between Miller's Creek and the Canadian border to bring her back. She had no idea the clock had already started. The coffee pot burned Rebecca's palm as she refilled it for the 3rd time that hour, but she didn't flinch. Pain was better than attention. In Miller's Creek, invisibility was survival, and she perfected the art of disappearing in plain sight. Until the night Carlos Rodriguez's dark eyes found her across a rain-soaked street, and she realized some men see everything you're trying to hide. The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow that made the chipped Formica counters look even more depressing. The smell of grease, burnt toast, and weak coffee had soaked into her uniform, her hair, probably her skin by now. She didn't mind. It smelled like anonymity, and anonymity was the only shield she had left. "Coffee, hon?" she asked Mrs. Patterson, her voice carefully pleasant but forgettable. 3 months in Miller's Creek, and she'd mastered the rhythm. Morning shifts at Eddie's Diner, smiles for the regulars, vague answers to questions, home before dark. Keep her head down. Keep moving. Never let anyone look too closely. 87 days since she'd run. 87 days of believing she was finally safe. She didn't know that Carlos had already found her 2 hours after she crossed the county line. She didn't know the Volkovs found her 3 days ago. And she didn't know that the 6-hour window Carlos had been given, the one that would determine whether she lived or died, was already half gone. The bell above the door chimed, and she glanced up out of habit. Just Tommy, the mechanic from down the street, same as every Tuesday. Routine was good. Routine was safe. The usual, she called out, already reaching for the coffee pot. "You know it, Rebecca." She poured his coffee and slid a piece of apple pie across the counter. This was her life now. Predictable, small, invisible. Everything she'd hoped for when she'd chosen Miller's Creek from a map with her eyes closed, looking for anywhere that wasn't connected to her past. Eddie emerged from the kitchen, his apron stained with what she hoped was just ketchup. "You can head out early tonight if you want." Dead as a doornail in here. She should have said yes. Should have grabbed her jacket and gone straight home to her 1-bedroom apartment above the laundromat. Should have followed the same safe path she'd walked every night for 3 months. Instead, she stayed to finish her shift, wipe down tables that were already clean, reorganize the sugar packets. Anything to delay the walk home in the dark. By the time she finally locked up, rain had started to fall, turning the empty streets slick and black. Her sneakers splashed through puddles as she hurried down Main Street, past the closed hardware store and the shuttered pharmacy. Miller's Creek rolled up its sidewalks early. She was 2 blocks from home when she felt it. That prickling sensation at the back of her neck that said she wasn't alone. She learned to trust that feeling in her old life. It had kept her alive more than once. She walked faster, not running. Running drew attention, but moving with purpose. The footsteps behind her maintained their distance, neither closing in nor falling back. Her hand was on her pepper spray when a black SUV pulled alongside her, its tinted windows reflecting her pale, frightened face. That's when she saw him for the first time. Carlos Rodriguez, and everything she'd been running from caught up in a single moment. The SUV's window descended with a whisper of expensive machinery, revealing a face that could have been carved from marble. All sharp angles and cold beauty that belonged in a museum, not on a rain-soaked street in Miller's Creek. "Get in." His voice was low, accented with something that spoke of Latin heritage. Not a request, a command. "I don't get into cars with strangers." She kept her hand on the pepper spray, though something told her it would be about as effective as a water gun against a forest fire. "Carlos Rodriguez." He didn't offer his hand. "And you're Rebecca Chandler, formerly of Harbor City. Formerly Diego Morrison's girlfriend. Currently running from people who are very interested in finding you." Her blood turned to ice. 3 months of hiding, of being nobody, evaporated in the space of 3 sentences. I don't know what you are. There's a man following you. Carlos's eyes flicked to something behind her. About 40 feet back, leather jacket, gun in his waistband. He's not with me. Get in the car, Rebecca, or find out what Diego's associates want with you. Your choice. She spun around. Sure enough, a figure stood beneath the awning of the hardware store, rain dripping off his jacket. Even from this distance, she could see the cold purpose in his stance. She'd seen men like him before in Diego's world. Men who hurt people for money. The SUV door swung open. She got in. The interior smelled like leather and something darker. Gun oil. Maybe you're just a sin of power. Carlos didn't look at her as the vehicle pulled away from the curb, his driver navigating the empty streets with practiced ease. How did you find me? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. I own 3 businesses in Miller's Creek. I make it my concern to know who comes and goes. He finally turned those dark eyes on her, and she felt pinned like a butterfly under glass, especially when they're running from the Volkov syndicate. I'm not. The lie died on her lips. He knew. Somehow, he knew everything. Diego Morrison was small-time. Carlos continued, his tone conversational, as if they were discussing the weather. Ran gambling debts and protection rackets for the Russians. But you knew that, didn't you? What you might not know is that he's dead. Killed 3 weeks ago in a territorial dispute. The world tilted. Dead. Diego was dead. Then why? Because before he died, he told his bosses that you have something they want. Information about their operations, names, locations. They think your insurance he kept in case things went bad. Carlos's jaw tightened. They're tearing apart Harbor City looking for you. It was only a matter of time before they expanded their search. I don't have anything. Panic crept in her voice. I don't know anything about his business. He never told me. It doesn't matter what you know. It matters what they think you know. The SUV pulled into an alley behind a restaurant she recognized. Rodriguez's, the upscale Italian place that had opened last year. Which is where I come in. You? I can protect you. My territory, my rules. The Russians won't touch you here. He paused, and something flickered behind those cold eyes. In exchange, you tell me everything you remember about Diego's operations. Names, faces, conversations. Anything that might give me leverage against the Volkovs. There it was. The price. And if I refuse, then I drop you back on that street corner, and you take your chances with the man in the leather jacket. No emotion in his voice, just fact. Your choice, Rebecca. She looked out the window at the rain-slicked alley, at the shadows that suddenly seemed full of threats. 87 days of running, and it had all been for nothing. What kind of protection are we talking about? Carlos's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. The permanent kind. Carlos's office above the restaurant was nothing like Rebecca expected. No ostentatious displays of wealth. No gold-plated fixtures or animal heads mounted on walls. Just clean lines, dark wood, and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Miller's Creek like a king surveying his kingdom. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey without asking if she wanted one, then slid one across the desk toward her. She didn't touch it. You've been here a week, she said, watching him settle into the leather chair behind his desk. In town, I mean. Eddie mentioned someone bought the old Morrison building downtown. No relation to Diego, just unfortunate coincidence. That was you. I've been here 3 months. Carlos took a slow sip of his whiskey, his eyes never leaving hers. Since the day you arrived, actually, the bottom dropped out her stomach. What? I have people, Rebecca. People who watch the borders of my territory, who flag anyone with connections to my enemies. He set down his glass with careful precision. You were flagged the moment you crossed the county line. 3 months. Every moment she'd thought she was safe, invisible, free, he'd been watching. The diner, her apartment, her walks home in the dark. All of it observed. So this, she gestured between them, anger rising hot her chest. This protection you're offering, it's not about keeping me safe. It's about using me. It's about both. No apology in his tone. No shame. Just cold calculation. The Volkov syndicate is expanding into my territory. They've been pushing for months, drugs, weapons, human trafficking. Your ex-boyfriend was one of their frontier operations, testing how far they could reach before I pushed back. I told you, I don't know anything about. You know more than you think. Carlos stood, moving to the window. His reflection in the glass looked carved from shadow. You lived with Diego for 2 years. You met his associates, overheard conversations, saw faces. That's intelligence, whether you realized it or not. So you've been following me for 3 months, waiting for the perfect moment to swoop in and play hero. The betrayal tasted bitter on her tongue. Let me guess, you probably tipped off that thug tonight, didn't you? Made sure I'd be scared enough to get in your car. He turned, and something flickered across his face. No, that threat was real. But I won't lie. I've been waiting for an opportunity to approach you. Tonight simply provided it. She stood, her chair scraping harshly against the floor. I'm not some chess piece you can move around your board. No. He crossed the distance between them in 3 strides. And suddenly he was too close, his presence overwhelming. You're a woman caught between 2 very dangerous organizations. And the only thing keeping you alive right now is that neither of them knows exactly what you're worth. And you do. His jaw tightened. I'm beginning to understand. There was something in his eyes, something beyond the cold calculation she'd seen before. Something almost like conflict, as if he hadn't expected her to be more than a useful asset. This was a mistake. She moved toward the door, but his hand caught her wrist. Not rough, but firm. You walk out that door, you're dead within 48 hours. Is that what you want? I want the truth. She yanked her arm free, turning to face him. Are you protecting me because it serves your purposes, or because you actually give a damn what happens to me? The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken things. Ask me again in a month, Carlos finally said, his voice low, when I figure out the answer myself. It wasn't the reassurance she wanted, but it was at least honest. And honesty, in a world built on lies, was something she could work with. 1 month, she said. Then I want the truth. His eyes held hers. Deal. Rebecca saw Diego's ghost 3 days later. Except it wasn't a ghost. It was him, alive and standing in the diner's doorway at 6 in the morning, looking exactly as he had the day she'd fled Harbor City. Sandy hair still perfectly styled, that boyish smile that had fooled her for 2 years, expensive watch glinting on his wrist. The coffee pot slipped from her hand and shattered across the floor. Rebecca. His voice was soft, concerned. The voice he'd used when he wanted something. Jesus, you look like you've seen a ghost. You're dead. The words came out strangled. Carlos said. Carlos Rodriguez said a lot of things, I'm sure. Diego stepped over the broken glass, and she stumbled backward until she hit the counter. None of them true. Eddie emerged from the kitchen, took one look at the situation, and wisely retreated. The morning regulars suddenly found their newspapers fascinating. How are you here? Her heart hammered against her ribs. How did you find me? Same way Rodriguez did, I imagine. Diego's smile turned sad. Baby, I never wanted you mixed up in this. That's why I let you think I was dead. It was safer for you to disappear, to think you had nothing left to run back to. Let me think. Anger cut through her shock. You let me think you were dead? The Volkov staged my death to flush out traitors in their organization. I've been working undercover for them, try to take down Rodriguez's operation from the inside. He reached for her hand, and she jerked away. I came back for you. To warn you. Warn me about what? About Carlos Rodriguez. Diego's expression turned grave. Rebecca, he's not protecting you. He's using you as bait. The Volkovs want their information back, and Rodriguez is dangling you in front of them like a lure, waiting for them to make a move so he can eliminate his competition. That's not. But was it? She thought of Carlos's cold calculation, his admission that he'd been watching her for months. You're a woman caught between 2 very dangerous organizations. He told you he'd keep you safe, didn't he? Diego stepped closer, and this time she didn't move away. That's what men like him do. They make you feel protected while they're really just adding you to their collection of assets. When this is over, when he's gotten what he wants from the Volkovs, what do you think happens to you? Stop. But her voice lacked conviction. I know I hurt you. I know I lied, kept you in the dark about my business. Diego's hand found her cheek, And God help her, some traitorous part of her remembered when his touch meant safety. But I did it to protect you. Rodriguez? He's making you a target. The longer you stay under his protection, the more danger you're in. Why should I believe you? You're working for the people trying to kill me. I'm working to bring down the people trying to kill you. There's a difference. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. Come with me. Right now. I can get you actual protection, witness protection. The feds are involved now. You be safe, truly safe. No more running. No more looking over your shoulder. She wanted to believe him. Some part of her that remembered the Diego from before she'd seen the guns, the money, the dead look in his associate's eyes, wanted desperately to believe this was real. Rebecca. Carlos's voice cut through the diner like a blade. She turned to find him in the doorway, perfectly still, his eyes locked on Diego with the kind of cold fury that made her blood freeze. Two of his men flanked him, hands resting casually near their jackets. Diego's hand dropped from her face. Rodriguez. Right on time. You have 3 seconds to walk out of my territory before I forget there are witnesses. Carlos's voice was soft, deadly. 1. Ask him, Rebecca. Diego backed toward the door, that sad smile still in place. Ask him what happens when he's done using you. 2. Diego held up his hands in mock surrender. I'll be at the Riverside Motel, room 12, when you're ready to hear the truth. His eyes found hers. I still love you, Rebecca. I came back for you. Remember that. Then he was gone. The silence in the diner was deafening. Carlos stood perfectly still, his jaw tight, eyes still fixed on the empty doorway. He's alive, she whispered. Yes. You knew. Carlos finally looked at her, and something in his expression made her chest ache. Yes. Were you ever going to tell me? His silence was answer enough. Carlos's lieutenant, Fernando, had kind eyes. That's what Rebecca remembered thinking the first time they met, that someone in Carlos's world could still have kind eyes. He'd driven her to the safe house Carlos had arranged, a cottage on the edge of town, surrounded by woods. He made small talk about his daughter, showed her pictures on his phone. Normal things. Human things. Mr. Rodriguez wants you comfortable, Fernando had said, carrying her meager belongings inside. Anything you need, you call me directly. That was a week ago, before Diego's reappearance had poisoned everything with doubt. Before Carlos and she had spent 3 days barely speaking, circling each other like wounded animals. Now Fernando was driving her to town for supplies, the same route they'd taken twice before. Safe. Routine. You doing okay, Miss Chandler? Fernando's eyes found hers in the rearview mirror. Those kind eyes. I know this has been difficult. I'm fine. She wasn't. She hadn't slept in days, couldn't stop hearing Diego's voice. He's using you as bait. Mr. Rodriguez, he's a good man. Hard, yes, but good. He'll keep you safe. The certainty in Fernando's voice almost made her believe it. They were 2 miles from town when Fernando's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, then pulled onto a side road she didn't recognize. Fernando? This isn't the way to. Shortcut, he said, but something in his voice had changed. The kindness had drained away, replaced by something flat. Empty. Her hand found the door handle. Stop the car. I'm sorry, Rebecca. He said it quietly, almost gently. I really am. But they're offering me a way out. A new life for my daughter, away from all this. You understand, don't you? What we do for our children. The SUV pulled into a clearing where 2 other vehicles waited. Men emerged, and she recognized the one in the leather jacket from that first night. Diego's people. Volkov's people. Fernando, please. They promise they won't hurt you. Just want to talk, ask you some questions. But he wouldn't meet her eyes. They both knew what happened to people the Volkovs talked to. She lunged for the door, but it was locked. Child safety locks. The bitter irony wasn't lost on her. I gave them the security codes for the safe house, your location, everything. Fernando's voice cracked. Carlos will understand eventually. It's just business. The men were approaching the car. She had maybe 30 seconds. Then gunfire shattered the rear window. She screamed, throwing herself to the floor as Fernando cursed and threw the SUV in reverse. Through the broken window, she saw Carlos's black sedan, saw him emerge with a gun in each hand, his face transformed into something terrifying and beautiful. He moved like death incarnate, precise and unstoppable. Two men dropped before they could raise their weapons. Fernando accelerated, trying to escape, but another of Carlos's vehicles blocked the road. They crashed to a stop. Fernando fumbled for his gun, but Carlos was already there, ripping the driver's door open, dragging him out by his collar. "Please." Fernando's kind eyes were wide with terror. "My daughter," they said. "You sold her out." Carlos's gun pressed against Fernando's temple. "After everything, you sold her to them." "Carlos, don't." Rebecca scrambled out of the SUV, her hands shaking. "Please don't." His eyes met hers over Fernando's trembling form, and she saw the question there. The choice he was offering her. Justice or mercy. His world or something else. "He has a daughter," she whispered. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then Carlos lowered the gun and drove his fist into Fernando's face instead. The lieutenant crumpled. "Get her out of here," Carlos told one of his men, his voice empty. "Now." As they pulled her toward the sedan, she looked back at Fernando, bleeding in the dirt, at Carlos, standing over him like an avenging angel, at the bodies scattered across the clearing. This was her fault. Fernando had betrayed Carlos because of her, because the Volkovs wanted her badly enough to buy his loyalty. Men had died because she'd run to Miller's Creek instead of somewhere else. Because she'd existed. In the car, she finally let herself shake. Let the reality of it crash over her. Carlos slid into the seat beside her, blood on his knuckles, death in his eyes. "I can't do this," she said. "I can't be the reason people die." His hand found hers, squeezed once. "You're not the reason. You're just the excuse they're using." But she wasn't sure she believed him anymore. The call came at 2:47 a.m. Rebecca's mother's number. She answered before the first ring finished, already knowing something was wrong. Mothers always know. "Rebecca." Her mother's voice was strangled, wrong. "Rebecca." They took her. They took Karen. The world stopped. What? The word came from somewhere far away, from someone else's mouth. Not hers. This couldn't be happening to her. Men came to the house. They knew her name, knew. Her mother was crying now, broken sobs that shattered what was left of Rebecca's composure. "They said to tell you. They said you know what they want. They said 48 hours, or..." The phone fell from Rebecca's hand. Carlos caught it, already moving, already barking orders to someone. She hadn't even heard him come in, but he was there, dressed in black, his face a mask of controlled fury. "Want every camera in a 50-mile radius checked. Traffic cams, security feeds, doorbell cameras. Find that vehicle." He looked at her, and something in his expression cracked. Rebecca. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her baby. Her Karen with her gap-toothed smile, and her stuffed rabbit and her fear of the dark. In the hands of men like the ones she'd seen Carlos kill in that clearing. "Get her back." Her voice didn't sound like hers. "Whatever they want, give it to them. I don't care. Just get her back." "Rebecca." "Now." She lunged at him, fists beating against his chest. "You did this. Your world, your war, your enemies. They took my baby because of you." He let her hit him. Didn't defend himself. Didn't move. Just stood there absorbing her rage and terror until she collapsed against him, screaming into his shirt. "I'll get her back," he said quietly. "I swear to you, Rebecca. I'll get her back." "Ow!" She shoved away from him. "This is what you do, isn't it? You use people. Fernando, me, and now my daughter is paying the price for your games." His jaw tightened. "This isn't a game." "Then what is it?" Tears blurred her vision. "Because my 4-year-old daughter just became collateral damage in a war I never wanted." Carlos's phone buzzed. He answered it, listened, his expression darkening. When he hung up, the look in his eyes made her blood freeze. "They want you. In exchange for Karen. Neutral location. 2 hours. Then let's go. It's a trap." He grabbed her arm. "The moment you show up, they'll kill you both." "I don't care. She's 4 years old, Carlos. She's afraid of the dark, and she needs me. And she needs you alive." His hands gripped her shoulders. "Let me handle this. Your protection put a target on her back." She yanked free. "So forgive me if I don't trust your methods." Pain flickered across his face. "Then what do you want me to do?" "Give them what they want." "Me." "They won't let her go. The Volkovs don't leave witnesses." Carlos's voice turned hard. They're going to kill her anyway. The truth hit her like a physical blow. Then what's the point? She whispered. Carlos was quiet for a long moment. There's another way. Dangerous, but might work. Tell me. Diego. He said he was working with the feds. If he has federal resources, you want to work with him? I want to save your daughter. Carlos's eyes met hers. And I don't care what it costs me. Not my pride, not my territory, not my war. Nothing matters except getting Karen back. For the first time, she saw past the Mafia boss to the man beneath. You'd really do that? I'd burn my entire empire to the ground if it meant keeping you both safe. He said it like a fact. Can you trust me enough to let me try? She thought of Karen's laugh, her sticky fingers, the way she called her mama when she had bad dreams. Make the call, she said. Carlos's hand found Rebecca's, squeezed once. Then he reached for his phone, and Rebecca prayed to a God she wasn't sure she believed in anymore that she was making the right choice, that her daughter would forgive her, that she'd live long enough to hold Karen again. The warehouse smelled like blood and gunpowder. Carlos had gone alone. No, that wasn't true. Diego had been with him, along with a team of federal agents in tactical gear. Rebecca had watched from the surveillance van, nails digging into her palms hard enough to draw blood, as they breached the building where the Volkovs were holding Karen. 7 minutes of gunfire. 7 minutes that felt like 7 lifetimes. Then Carlos emerged, Karen cradled against his chest, her face buried in his shoulder. She was crying, but she was alive. Alive. Rebecca had never run faster in her life. Now, 3 days later, Karen was asleep in the safe house bedroom, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight, a night light casting soft shadows across her face. She hadn't let Rebecca out of her sight for more than 5 minutes since Carlos had handed her over outside that warehouse. Carlos stood at the window, silhouetted against the dawn. He hadn't slept. Neither had Rebecca. The Volkovs are regrouping, he said quietly. Diego's federal operation bought us time, but not much. They'll come again. Harder next time. I know. I can end this. Step away from the business, turn everything over to my cousin in New York. Disappear with you and Karen. He turned to face her, and the exhaustion in his eyes matched her own. We could go somewhere they'd never find us. New identities, new lives. I have resources. Carlos. Enough money to keep us comfortable for several lifetimes. Karen could have a normal childhood. You could. Carlos, stop. He fell silent, his jaw tight. She moved to stand in front of him, this man who'd burned his empire for her daughter, who'd swallowed his pride and worked with Diego to save her, who'd chosen them over everything he'd built. I can't keep living like this, she said, and watched something break behind his eyes. I can't keep wondering if every car that drives past is coming for us, if every stranger in the grocery store is a threat, if my daughter will be taken again because of who we are. I understand. His voice was hollow. I'll make arrangements. Money, protection, a new location far from. I love you. The words stopped in mid-sentence. God help me, Carlos, I love you. And that terrifies me more than the Volkovs ever could. His hand found her cheek, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. Rebecca, so here's what's going to happen. She covered his hand with hers. You're going to step away from your business. We're going to disappear together. And we're going to try, to build something normal for Karen. Hope flickered in his eyes. You mean, but if they find us again, if your past catches up no matter how far we run. She swallowed hard. I need to know you'll choose us. Every single time. Not your pride, not your territory, not revenge. Us. Every single time, he said without hesitation. I swear it. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe they could outrun the violence, the blood, the endless cycle of revenge. That love could be enough. My cousin called. Carlos's expression darkened. The Volkovs put a price on my head. 5 million. And double that for you. How long do we have? A week, maybe less, before every mercenary and opportunist on the East Coast comes looking. His arms wrapped around her, solid and warm. We leave tonight. There's a property in Montana, middle of nowhere. No one knows about it except me. And then we see if love is strong enough to survive when the whole world wants us dead. She looked toward the bedroom where Karen slept, innocent and unaware of the target painted on her back, simply for being hers. "It has to be," she whispered. Carlos's lips found her forehead. "Then we make it be." Outside, dawn broke over Miller's Creek, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. Somewhere, their enemies were planning, hunting, coming for them. But for now, in this moment, they had each other. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The sound of a car engine in the distance made them both freeze. Carlos's hand moved to his gun. Their new life would have to wait. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe and be part of a community that cherishes unforgettable tales like this one. Your support means more than you know. It fuels the creation of even more stories that speak to the heart. So, whether you're watching from your TV or your phone, take a moment to join us. Every like, every subscription, every share helps us continue bringing these stories to life. Thank you for being a part of this journey.